There's a Zen quote, a fellow named Dogen Zenji. He had a bit that he wrote a long time ago, and then they squirreled it away, and nobody read it for forever, because they just thought, man, this will blow people's minds, don't do it, just hit it. It's called genjokoan. Genjokoan meaning the koan of the self. So there's all these koans, which are these funny questions, right? In Zen training, what's the sound of one hand clapping? Does a dog have Buddha nature? All that show. How many months does it take to screw in a light bulb? Just odd little things that they sort of are designed to kind of put you in a relationship to questioning and your own mind and your own life in a kind of way. And yeah, genjokoan has to do with the big question. You, what is it? The only one that really matters is what you're doing in your life. And he wrote it out this way. He said to study the way, like to study anything that ends in do, aikido, judo, budo, blah, 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 do, or flower dough, or all the dough stuff. Study the way, that's the do, is to study the self. So it takes it immediately out of, I'm going to look it up in a book, or I'm going to listen to some bright person's idea about it, or I'm going to think about it in a bunch of damn abstractions, whether that's God or Buddha or Tao or whatever the hell. Brings it right back to you. When you're entering into studying that, you're entering into studying your own experience, your own embodied life, and bringing it to the basis of that as where things have to be seen and where things have to be moved and changed. It's not out there, it's not some idea. It's about the direct experience. Study the ways to study the self. When one studies the self, he said in this next line, you forget the self. It's very pithy. And so because it's so pithy and he doesn't roll it out and talk about it, you go, study the self is to forget the self? What in the hell does that mean? That's crazy. But it's true. You're driving down the road and you've got driving down and you forget yourself. You're not really consciously engaged. We're not really, we step out of our sense of self to do really great stuff. Very automatic. When you're out there being very self-conscious about your Aikido, it's a very different experience than when you've forgotten the sense of self entirely and you're just flowing. And when you forget yourself, you're in that flow state and it is completely different. To forget the self is to be enlightened by the 10,000 things, was his next line. All the phenomenon, everything that arises, whatever appears before your eyes in that other person, in this activity of practice, in your life, is there to wake you up. There to stimulate your mind and your heart to go like this. Not to go like this, to go like this. People get wound up in the word enlighten. I like the physical embodiment of that. Best expression I've ever seen. See, what does it feel like? What does it feel like when you have that amazing experience and you're enlightened? They say, nah. You go from a state in which your mind and your heart are fixated and locked down, and you go like that. That's what it is. Nothing more, nothing special. Or maybe that is very special, and we just don't notice it too much. To be enlightened by the 10,000 things is to remove barrier between self and other. And if randori, when it works right, when it gets smooth, is not removing boundary between self and other, I don't know what is. When Aikido is really making harmony, I don't know how it's not removing boundary between self and other. That doesn't mean that it's all hazy and we're all one, like some sort of cosmic, we're all one. Not that. I'm still me and you're still you. And yet there's this other level where it's functioning that is undeniable as well. The boundary in the physically embodied experience in really great randori, you don't quite know where your body's stopping and theirs picking up, and you don't know quite where their nervous system begins and yours ends. It's a profound sort of entanglement. Or that's strange. Partnership, enmeshment, not sure how to describe it exactly. It's weird.
Now, hold on, entangled kind of denotes chaos.
And I was going to quantum physics where the two bits get entangled,
Yeah.
and then you stretch them apart in the distance, and you tickle this one and that one laughs. That's what happens. You take electrons, you bump them up against each other, you move them to the opposite end of the world, and you tickle this one and that one wiggles. Weird. That's quantum entanglement. So I was, that's what
Symbiotic.
symbiotic in a certain kind of way. Very odd. Very odd the way we're actually not what we think we are.
It's an act of creation, because you and I created something.
Yeah. We co-created. So here we are in this weird genjokoan of Mr. Dojo. And the thing about it is it just keeps going. There's no end to that process, because at the very end of, hey, it's all gone around the loop and now we're in this crazy, strange, entangled thing that we do together, or this strange partnership or whatever, then it goes right back to studying the self, studying the way, like a big spiral. State changes, and it's spiraling more and down and down and down. So it's always a different ride, but it's always the same circle. The circle seems very familiar, or it's going up. It doesn't matter whether it's up or down. It's going somewhere else than what it has been. And that's kind of how the path works. Not the way is not a straight line. We visit the same territory again and again, and it's the same as it was last time, but it's also not. It's always a little different too. Just make room in your program for that odd koan to be working on it, and it will. You don't solve it. That's what's so cool about that particular one, because people think those koans are something to solve. You'll understand it, you'll solve it, you'll have it, you'll go, now I know what it meant. That's what it meant. You know, people get very frustrated because for years they would just ring a little bell and say, go sit somewhere. Very frustrating. Solving is not the process. Embodying it, being it in your life, that's what the process is. That's what does it. That's what makes a difference. That's what makes it real. So, embodying it on the mat, same way. Understanding Aikido, go read a book. Get your head into it. Hey, wow, I know it all. Embodying it, physically exemplifying it, completely different. Right? Same thing. Cool. Well, thank you. It's been a great week. Okay. Right. Cool.